Oh, hi everybody.
Hello.
Hi, I can see a good few people joining there. We might just wait 1 or 2 more minutes because I know it's some people are trying to log in. So thank you for joining us. We'll start now in a couple of minutes. But just to let you know, for the most part, my name is Camilla, and I have my colleague Hedda online here as well. So she's looking after our chat box. So Hedda is going to just mute everybody because there's quite a lot of people online, and it's to keep on top of any noise disturbances in the background. But just 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we'll kick off. Okay. Okay, so we have a good few people signed in there now. So I might just double check with Hedda to make sure you can all hear me and see the PowerPoint on screen.
Yeah, I can hear you, and we have Sarah there standing by as well.
Brilliant. So I think we'll get going now. We have Sarah has joined us from the US. So I'm just going to do a quick intro. So thanks to everyone for joining. This is our Harnessing People Power to Tackle Ocean Waste webinar. So this is our first activity in a number of blog posts and webinars that we'll be doing for Clean Coast Citizen Science Week. And just my name is Camilla, so I'm the Clean Coast Officer for the South East. And I also have my colleague Hedda. She's based in Sligo. Hedda will be looking after our chat box. So I said earlier, everyone's muted for the moment, just so we can keep on top of any noise disturbances in the background. If anyone wants to ask any questions, please write them in the chat box there down on the bottom right hand side of your screen, and at the end then we'll try get through as many of them as possible. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Sarah Kollar for joining us from Ocean Conservancy. So Sarah's based in the US, so it's a busy week for them with the election, so thanks for taking the time to join us. So just to give you a quick outline of the webinar tonight, it'll be I'll cover what is citizen science, some of the work that our Clean Coast groups do around Ireland, and then our partnership to date with the Ocean Conservancy. And then I'll hand you over to Sarah, who will just talk through a bit of the work of Ocean Conservancy and the International Coastal Cleanup and Trash Free Seas. And then as well, she'll go through the Clean Swell app that they've developed. So this is an app that all of you might be able to use as part of any cleanups you do along the coast, and how you can get involved in your local area. So then we'll finish off the webinar with the Q&A. As I said, if you just enter any questions you have in the chat box, and we'll try and get to as many of those as possible. So just to start off, what is citizen science? It's where science as a profession meets science as a hobby. So it's really a way for members of the public to help experts with their research projects by volunteering to collect scientific data. So it might be recording litter that you find, it might be recording species or monitoring air quality. So it's really about utilising public participation in which everybody does a small part to increase knowledge. And the importance of citizen science, really, it helps scientists that wouldn't have the capacity to carry out this research alone. It can identify trends, identify areas for further research, or inform policy decisions. And really, citizen science has taken off in the past few years with the widespread use of smartphones, which means that this data can now be very easily captured, shared, mapped, and fed into research projects. Just to give you a really brief background on Clean Coast, and our aims is really to work with communities to protect our sea species, waterways and marine life. So we do this by, we also educate the public, so through campaigns such as Think Before You Flush, which is a sewage litter campaign, and we share awareness about the impact the sewage litter has on our wastewater infrastructure, as well as washing up on our beaches and having an impact on marine life. And there's an ask to have a bin in your bathroom to dispose of anything that's not organic waste. And then we also have our 2-minute beach clean campaign, which encourages micro cleanups when visiting the beach and sharing on social media. So I can see there, Sean Ferguson, you're popping up on my screen there as I mentioned that. So we have groups that kind of take part in that heavily around the country. So really, at the core of Clean Coast is our network of over 1,200 groups and individuals who volunteer their time to protect the coast. So this really showcases our strong connection to the coast and the ocean, and our groups and volunteers are represented in every coastal county in Ireland. So they're spread out for every 6 kilometres of coast, we have a Clean Coast group. So these individuals on the ground really act as our advocates, our enthusiasts, and our educators as well. So as part of being part of Clean Coast, really the core work that our Clean Coast volunteers do is taking part in beach cleans. So we have thousands of cleanups happening annually. So many of these organise monthly, weekly, or even daily cleanups for some individuals. So there's huge potential here, really, along with the amazing feat of cleaning up the environment. There's huge potential that we capture and gather data litter data of what we find along our coastline. So especially now, I think during COVID restrictions, it's a nice opportunity to engage with your local area, engage with nature, and get out and about within your 5K for now. So really, this harbours opportunities to collate what we find, where we find it, and how many items that we find. So we could create geographical data at a local level. We can look at litter black spots. At a national and international level, we can inform policy. So Clean Coast in the past or to date, we've looked at top 10 items that we find on the beach. So we can look at the success of certain policies. For example, the plastic bag levy was introduced in Ireland in 2002, and plastic bags no longer feature on our top 10 items that we find on their coast. So what plastic bags previously amounted to 5% of litter pollution in 2001, that's gone down to 0.1, just over 0.1% in recent years. So it's kind of an example how citizen science data can really help us look at the impacts of policies, but has potential to inform policies as well. So, and then just looking to date, working with the international, or working with Ocean Conservancy, Clean Coasts have taken part in the International Coastal Cleanup weekend, which is essentially a citizen science weekend that happens every September. We host a call to action to our volunteers and ask our volunteers to record the data that they find when they do these cleanups. So in 2019 alone, our volunteers had over 300 cleanups. And then they logged their marine litter through either data cards or the CleanSwell app, which Sarah is going to talk through to you a bit about later. So this really feeds into a bigger picture of over 100 countries that took part in 2019 alone. So following that, I think I'll pass you over to Sarah, who might talk through a little bit more of the work at Ocean Conservancy, and then talk in more detail about the CleanSwell app and how you can use it and get involved. So let me just see, I've got some slides up here for you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, wonderful. Thank you everyone on the Clean Coast Ireland team for having me on today, this evening. I apologize for running a few minutes late. So thank you all for having me on, and I will, as head and team have mentioned, I will talk briefly about basically taking a step back and zooming out a little bit and providing a bit of the global perspective around the International Coastal Cleanup. So thank you so much for grabbing some of my slides here. And to kick it off, really this just provides a global snapshot of where we are to date. And I think I may even need to update this slide a little bit more, but it's been really incredible to come into this network of country partners all over the world who come out usually one day a year. It can also be more of a season at this point, and really take part in volunteer community cleanup events. So these numbers are reflective of the 35-year history of the International Coastal Cleanup. And this program, this effort falls under Ocean Conservancy's Trash-Free Seas program. So I'm part of that program. Ocean Conservancy is based in Washington, DC. That's where I'm joining you from today. And so the International Coastal Cleanup for us has really been the backbone, so to speak, or the cornerstone of the rest of our Trash-Free Seas program work. So we really take the data collection, the citizen science data collection aspect, and the community aspect of this annual event very seriously, as it does inform the rest of the work that we do. And I will say that as the science has basically grown exponentially in the last few years, our program has as well, but we really are, we do a lot of our work based in sound science and based in sound citizen science data that you see reflected here on this slide. Next slide, please. Forget what. Wonderful. So I just wanted to start with just a few slides with some pictures of the faces behind the International Coastal Cleanup, and it was wonderful to see your Beach Clean event photos as well. Just a collage of just all sorts of volunteers coming out, all walks of life, all ages, I just did the tabulation again. I think we're at 170 different countries now over the 35-year history of the ICC. So an effort that began back in 1986 is now kind of blossomed into this own monster, if you will, that kind of runs on its own year to year. And Ocean Conservancy's role is more of a managerial position at this point, where we try to act as the glue that keeps this network together. And we have a number of country and US state partners that really are the boots on the ground making these cleanups happen. So in Ireland, obviously that is Clean Coast Ireland, and it has been for a number of years now. I think it predates most of us organizers on this call. But as you can see here, volunteers go out, whether they're on the coast or not. They can join, community cleanups at parks, local waterways, rivers, reservoirs, wherever it may be that they can get out and remove harmful debris from the environment. And we even have scuba diving underwater cleanups taking place, and then also cleanups by boat. Go ahead, next slide. I think I have one more slide of just some more, oh, okay. We skipped some more photos. So another aspect of my work is our outreach and education work that we do. And a lot of this does indeed stem from the International Coastal Cleanup and the data that come from that. So each year, Ocean Conservancy, we work to not only get information and resources out to our cleanup partners, but we also act as the hub for data collection and submission. So a big part of my job is organizing and maintaining an open access online database that we have where International Coastal Cleanup data live. And I should say that with the advent of our app, which I'll get to in a minute, really the data collection process is a year-round invitation at this point. So while we still have the tradition of the International Coastal Cleanup season, we really do encourage our partners and volunteers to feel empowered to go out any time of the year to do those cleanups and to have their data automatically submit through the app into this online database for all to access and to use. And so the data have informed, policy, science, but also some of the education work that we do. So a little plug here with the web link to some of the education work that we've created around and for youth. And I do also like to always show this graphic. I think it's on the far right. When I speak with youth in particular, I like to connect, the fact that this issue isn't just for folks who live on the coast. It really does. It's something that we all impact, whether we live on the coast or not. And I do like to talk about how trash can travel, and we talk about storm drain runoff. We talk about trash traveling down watersheds, and it's definitely reflected in the international coastal cleanup data. You know, we are, I'm sure we'll have some more stats here on a couple of more slides, but you guys are all familiar with the types of items that are found. It's a lot of these lightweight, single-use plastic consumer items that we all use in our everyday. So, you know, for us at Ocean Conservancy, it's as much about the sheer removal of poundage of debris for the international coastal cleanup as it is about an educational and even just really reflective moment for volunteers as they have this experience out on the coast or river or wherever they are, actually taking tally on the types of debris that they find. Next slide, please. Right, so I was teed up nicely to talk about our Clean Swell application, and I've talked to Sinead and team quite a bit about this app. We're really excited to develop this, and in essence, Clean Swell was developed about 5 years ago, and really it's just taking our paper data card that we've had for all 35 years of the ICC and moving into the 21st century a little bit and just having another option for volunteers to easily, efficiently, and maybe a little bit fun, dare I say, collect data on what they're finding. So the data collection screen, that's basically the bulk of the application. That's what you see here in the center of the screen. We call it our collection screen. But basically it just shows icons of the top collected trash items globally, very similar categories to what you might find on the data card if you're familiar with that. And volunteers, again, just like the paper data card, we encourage folks to work in small teams, have just one designated data recorder, and then they can simply follow along with their smart device. And they can keep tally as they go. So volunteers in their group can call out items as they are found, and then the data recorder simply taps on those icons that you see there on the screen, and the app keeps tally for you. We built in a number of other features to really make it useful. As you can see there on the bottom, we get a lot of questions about, can it be used without cellular service? Is it free? Yes, it's free. It's available for, for all smart devices. And we have built in a lot of fun features as well. Things like badges that volunteers can earn the more that they clean. And then of course, there's a group identification field as well. So any volunteers going out, say on a beach clean with Clean Coast Ireland, can utilize that group name, include that in their group name or maybe their location and Clean Coast Ireland. And then it allows us in the back end on that online database to actually search for and capture all of your organizations, your volunteers' impact all together, while also still contributing to the global effort. So I could talk at length about the app, and I think the Clean Coast team is also going to share a short video just walking through the very basics, like step-by-step, screen by screen of how to use the app if you've never tried it out in a cleanup before. So I welcome you to check out that video. I can also share a web link to another animated video on Ocean Conservancy's website, but really the goal was to just make it as straightforward and easy as possible for anyone to contribute marine litter data. Next slide. That might be it for slides for me. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. And there was a question, you guys wanted me to chat briefly about how the ICC data are also used for policy as well. So I touched on the educational purposes, obviously, but international coastal cleanup data to date have been used on an array of policies, from international treaties and conventions all the way down to local beach ordinances and just about everywhere in between. So I can share a more in-depth policy library that was actually put together by a university here in the United States that's pretty well thorough, in-depth detail, country by country policies that exist at the moment when it comes to plastic marine pollution in particular, but basically any sort of policies that have to deal with marine litter. So I can share that whole link with you, but I wanted to share some examples here that I know of personally, and just through speaking with international coastal cleanup partners, the numbers really do add to the images that we see every day, the photos that very concerned citizens take, and that coupled with the data, the numbers really act as wonderful evidence when going to everything from town hall meetings to meetings with elected officials, reaching out to congressmen and congresswomen here in the United States and everywhere in between to really push for policy change and really impactful solutions upstream. So I think that's all I had on policy. Let's do next slide, please. I think, oh, yep, and that's it. So I just wanted to brush over everything real quickly so that we can have plenty of time for conversation or any more in-depth questions about any of the topics that I brought up here. But I did want to end with, my emails there if anyone has any specific questions, and also the URL for this year's International Coastal Cleanup. We've created a web page specific to 2020, as it has indeed been a unique year dealing with this global pandemic that we're all kind of dealing with on all ends of the spectrum, and really just making sure that safety is a top priority as we all, if we can, go out and do safe cleanups. I will say here in the United States, it's been quite restricted indeed. We've really only just had folks go out if they're interested in small, like family or living units, and do small cleanups that way. So it's a little bit more decentralized this year, but luckily the CleanSwell app has been able to shine and has acted as a tool when we can't really get our traditional resources out. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So I just want to add that just before we open up to a Q&A session, so just I suppose that we are celebrating our Clean Coast Citizen Science Week this week, and I suppose one of the main asks that would come from it would be that if people are interested to download the CleanSwell app, the Clean Coast team have been using it this week, so we really partnered with the Ocean Conservancy in developing a kind of tailored approach for Ireland, and really I suppose if people want to use it and feed back to it, I suppose it's very much still in development in terms of what functions we want to use and how we utilize the data. So if anyone wants to use it and feed back to us, please do. I'll also be circulating a video that Sarah sent to me just on how, like, really it's a how-to 7-minute video on how to use all the functions of the app. And then just to add to it, I suppose there's a nice feature as well for anyone that's interested that you might want to see. You're able to log in and see your total time spent cleaning up, your total amount of rubbish that you've collected. So it will tot it all up for you and keep a log of all your efforts. And as well, if you are part of a bigger Clean Coast group, you are able to give the group name to different individuals in your group, and you will be able to get a total log of all the litter that's collected as part of your group as well. So that's a nice function that we'll be able to get for you if you're interested in as well. So I might open to Hedda there if you want to field some questions to us.
Hi, so thanks, Sarah, that was great. If anybody wants to put questions into the chat, and we'll put them to Sarah then. So if you want to let us know what group you're in and or where you are, and then put in a question in the chat. So I have a question here from Alex from Sea Shepherd Supporter Ireland, and he said they're on their way to do some cleanups as soon as the restrictions are lifted, and they'd like to use the app. But this might be a little bit more of a question for Camilla. Do you organize the cleanups with the local councils, or do you bring the collected trash home with you? As well, if you leave the trash collected at public bins, does that count as littering? So this might be one a bit more for Camilla.
Yeah, so just if you're registered as a Clean Coast group, we can kind of provide you with a kind of how-to information on all that. If not, just to give you a quick overview now, we would ask that anyone collecting litter, if you're registered as a Clean Coast group, we can supply Clean Coast branded bags, or put you in touch with a local authority who also will have branded bags. So it's really important to use those to differentiate between dumping and what's collected as litter. So if you are using branded bags, you notify the council a couple of days, a few days prior to the event, so at least a week with COVID restrictions, just give them time to have staff out on the ground and to organise a cleanup from a designated location. Now, if you're an individual doing cleanups along the coast, we would ask that you take the litter home and dispose of it in a careful way, I suppose. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. We don't have too many more questions there if anybody wants to pop anything into the chat. But one of the questions when we were trying to try things out with the app, some people were wondering about having mobile data, or if you don't get internet access at your beach, what can you do? So maybe one of you could answer that question.
Sure, I'm happy to.
Sarah, do you want to?
Yeah. So with the app, definitely the one caveat is it is best, like any other app, you will need Wi-Fi or some sort of cellular service to be able to download the app. So it's something that if you want your group to use at an event, definitely worth communicating to them in advance. Perhaps there's an email that goes out to everyone before you meet at location at the beach, so that they can have it downloaded in advance. I will say it is something that not every single volunteer has to have. As long as there's just one person per group, you can always indicate more volunteers working on one person's app while it's open, or one phone. So there is that, but yes, you do need to have Wi-Fi to download the app. Once the app's downloaded, you can use it without internet, without cellular service. I've even used it in airplane mode on my device to save phone battery. And what it will do if you're out of range, it'll just store your data when you hit submit. A little indicator window will pop up and let you know that your data are saved. And once you get back into range, then your data will be sent off to that online database. Hopefully that helps clear that up. And I put the link to the online database here in the chat box if anyone's curious. And I think Camila had asked me before we met to try to pull some numbers for Ireland. So I was looking through the historic data. We have cleanup data as far back as 1997. And to date, we have over 13,500 volunteers who have removed over 80,000 kilos. And so far you've counted over 71,000 individual marine litter items, whether through the app or the data cards over the years. So really impressive, incredible work.
Super, thanks so much, Sarah, for pulling all the stats for us. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat box here, and I can see Angus just said, if we are a family, can you post us branded bags and litter pickers? So just to let you know, we actually have available at the moment. You can apply for a small clean kit on our website. I will be sending a follow-up email, so I can include it in that email, no problem if you want. It will be bags and gloves. We don't have any litter pickers available this time around, but there will be an opportunity for grants early next year, so you can apply for them there. Alternatively, you can get onto your local authority, and they, depending on which local authority, they might be able to help you out there. So, and someone else, Teresa said, will the slides be available? Yes, I will circulate them tomorrow morning, along with the house for Cleanswell and the opportunity to apply for kit. And is there a contact email where we can contact you guys? Yeah, so it's Clean Coasts. You can get us at, so you'll find it on our website at or cleancoast@eu.ontashka.org. I might just pop it here in the chat box in a minute. Hedda, can you see any more questions coming in there?
I have one.
I think that's everything. Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sarah, what's the objective of the app? Like you gather all this data and stuff. I mean, do you go after companies if you find 4,000 Coca-Cola bottles or Nestle, or what do you do with all the data that you get, that you actually gather?
That's a great question. Thank you. So the data all go into the online open access database, and from there it's really shared with a number of policymakers, industry innovators, fellow NGO partners, other scientists doing preliminary research, and just about everything in between. I will say we do work with some of the brands that we are finding on the beach quite regularly. And with them, we do more of kind of a roundtable, bringing them in with solutions, but we aren't afraid to track their brand data as well. And we actually have a separate paper data card if there are any groups that are interested in that, where volunteers can actually track brands of specific items as well. It's not built into the app just because it's a little bit more tedious than like the average volunteer is usually willing to do. But yeah, I mean, it's spot on. The data definitely don't sit and collect dust. They're used all the time. We're always sending people to the website.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, if no one has any more questions there, I might wrap up, but thank you so much to all of you for joining. We have a couple of more webinars coming up and some blog posts all about citizen science. So if you want to join us on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, we'll have Dave Wall from the National Biodiversity Data Centre speaking about all things biodiversity and how to record species. So they have a program called Explore Your Shore. And as well, thank you so much to Sarah for joining us. I know it's a really, really busy week for you and for pulling all those stats on how Ireland has taken part in the International Coastal Cleanup. And for telling us all the hard work that you're doing over in the US. So yeah, thank you, and hopefully I'll see you all soon, and I'll send that email all to you tomorrow morning along with the recording. So thanks, guys.